This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live.
Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's Friday again, and welcome to my show with me, Poppy Gibson, and very excited today because not only is it not raining, but I'm going to be joined by a very special guest this morning. We've got Mike Tolley with us to talk about outdoors education. So I can see Mike is just entering the studio. Good morning, Mike.
Hiya, nice to be here.
How are you today?
Yeah, very good, thanks. In the middle of sports day.
I mean, you're getting a gold star for joining our radio show so effortlessly this morning. Very impressed with that. So I can tell you're going to be a great guest already here on Teachers Talk Radio. How's your week been, Mike? Tell us about it.
Yeah, it's been good. We've just down at the Westminster Lodge in St Albans for our sports day today as well, so that's good.
I love it. So you're joining mid-sports day.
Yes, yeah. So if it gets a bit loud in the background, that's lots of boys running around the track.
Well, can I say I love the authenticity that you're here to talk to us about outdoors education while you're outdoors.
Yes, yeah, I thought that was quite good.
Wonderful, great. Well, thanks for joining us, Mike. Is it okay if I call you Mike?
Yes, of course it is, yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. So just before I get you to introduce yourself, we've kind of got an hour together this morning. I can see we've already got lots of listeners listening live. And I'm here with Mike to ask him all about the world of outdoor education, speak about some of the experiences that Mike is enjoying and that the people that he works with enjoy, and maybe to inspire some of us, whether you're listening live or listening back, about how we can really embrace outdoors education and not see it as an add-on, but maybe see it as something interwoven in our daily lives, not just in our teaching, but I have a feeling that Mike will inspire us to all get out a bit more this weekend as well. So Mike, let's begin. If you can maybe please tell us about yourself, maybe about your career, your education background, and what your current role is at the moment, please.
Yeah, so I suppose I've been in schools teaching since 98, so whatever that is, about 25 years or so now. Started out as a geography teacher, and then as geography teachers do, got sort of straight involved with the D of E, and I've been working in that area ever since. But I think it started before that, when I was a kid, essentially with the Scouts, and went mountaineering from an early age all over the UK and into Europe quite a few times. So it was sort of only natural really then to go into the D of E. And since then, probably taken upwards of 2,000 boys out on expeditions at bronze, silver and gold level.
Wow. So Mike, for anyone listening who hasn't heard of the DOE before, can you maybe please just summarise that for us?
Yes, sorry. So it's the Duke of Edinburgh Award. Obviously, it was set up by the Duke of Edinburgh, many years ago now. 4 sections, 4 parts, sort of young people basically to sort of get out of their sort of comfort zone and do some activities. And ironically, in the park I'm now sitting in, I can see a group of kids from another school going off on their expedition at this very second as well. So
in real time.
yeah, it's all going to St Albans today.
Lovely part of the world as well, Mike. For anyone who's not been to St Albans, so beautiful, isn't it?
It's lovely, yeah, very, very nice. Very lucky to live here.
So, Mike, I'm hoping you're happy. I've got kind of about eight or so questions to ask you through the course of the morning. First of all, though, I wondered, just to zoom in on the Duke of Edinburgh Awards, which I know you play a big part in. You said 2,000 boys you've helped to achieve their awards. Is that an award that you yourself did when you were younger?
No, that in a sense, that's sort of almost a strange thing that the school I went to, sort of down in Sussex, they didn't actually do the D of E. So essentially, I'd never heard of it as a school kid, and then sort of got to hear of it a little bit more. Then the school that I started at, that I'm still at now, it's always been a really big part of the sort of what we do and the offer for the kids at the school. And then, as I say, it sort of just naturally ended up going into it doing the geography and my background of being going out and doing it all, it was sort of just natural progression, really.
Brilliant. Yeah, you sound perfectly suited to run those hikes and expeditions. I myself actually did Duke of Edinburgh. I only did the Bronze Award. But I remember it was such a great thing because you have to do something for the community, isn't it? I remember volunteering at YMCA, and I think I had to learn a skill, and I played the saxophone at the time. Yes, I remember my music teacher having to sign. I feel it was like a little navy book that they had to sign each week.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
really good. And I suppose I don't know why I didn't do the silver and gold. I mean, can you do it as an adult, or it's only for young people?
It's up to 25.
I've just missed it by a hair's breadth. Oh wow, fantastic. Right, so let's plow on then. I know you've already told us a bit about your passion for the outdoors, but was this always something you knew you wanted to do, or how did you kind of specifically get involved in the world of outdoor education?
Again, it was obviously as a kid growing up, I loved it, and sort of getting out, the walking, the climbing, kayaking, all those sorts of things, but never sort of really could do it. It was just sort of something you did for fun. And then, as I say, when I sort of got to the school, Verrill, and where I'm at, it's outdoor education's always been seen as sort of a big deal for the boys. Sorry, I should say it's a boys' school, which is why I just say boys rather than boys and girls.
Thank you. And I don't know if I've lost you there for a second, Mike. Sorry.
So yeah, it was just a part of the school, and so just I sort of naturally got involved in it, and took it from there. And we've got the DOV. Our year sevens go up to the Lake District for a week and do outdoor activities up there. We take year nines away to a little place called Blue Peris, which is in North Wales, which was started in about 2001 or two, I think, by Guy Ross Morby, who joined us at the time. He was brilliant, and it just carried on from there, really, over the last 20 years, going here, there, and everywhere.
Brilliant. I mean, are you quite happy in that role? Do you think you'd ever go back to not doing those roles, or?
For a couple of years in my career, I was deputy head for a couple of years, and I didn't get to do it, and it was something that I massively missed. When you sort of see the kids going out and the experiences that the kids get, and as the leader, you're part of those experiences, and it's absolutely amazing for you as the leader and the teacher, for the relationships that you build and those experiences. And that was a massive sort of miss for me. So restarting it again was just brilliant, really good fun.
I love that. I love that.
It's one of the best things that you could do, I think.
And I think just for any specifically teachers listening, but actually not just teachers, I think that's really just good life advice from Mike there as well. Like, follow your passion. And I think in education, that's one thing we can do if we want to. The fact I can just imagine you when you said you're a deputy, I can just imagine you looking out your window and there are the boys packing their rucksacks into the coach or whatever. And then, realizing what your dream is in education, because there are so many different facets, aren't there? And just follow your dream, make it happen, change your pathway. So I love that you went back to outdoors education after that break.
Yeah, because I think if you don't, everything just passes you by, doesn't it? Obviously I've only ever really been in education and teaching, and it doesn't feel like I started 25 years ago, but obviously I have, and you think if you're not doing it, you just miss out on so much. So you've got to go and do what you love, what you enjoy, and if you can do that, combining it with your work and your teaching, then it's happy days, isn't it?
Really good advice there. Yeah. And I know when we set the theme for the show today, for anyone who's just joining us, I see lots of new listeners just listening in. The title of our show today is Learn It, Love It, Live It, which comes from Mike's passion for outdoor learning. And I think sit back and relax, because we're really going to draw on Mike's passion for outdoors ed this morning. So my next question then, why though? Why should we bother with outdoor education? Maybe you could tell us a bit about some of the benefits for children, for teachers, the benefits you yourself have noticed.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many. You could, obviously, you've got the physical side of it, which is, the obvious one, isn't it? If you're out walking for 3, 4, 5 days in the mountains, you've obviously got to be fit, healthy, and you'll enjoy it, and you'll get fitter and healthier. But in particular, I think the last couple of years, it's been, so sort of blatantly obvious in terms of, for us as individuals and groups, or our well-being, the mental health side of things, just to be out in nature,
Definitely.
doing something, like I say, at the moment, I'm sitting in Verulamium Park, and there's probably,
Wow.
30 or 40 kids on the DV. There's our school doing the sports day, everyone else out walking the dogs, that sort of thing. And, that hour for these people, the mental health side, the well-being, getting rid of stress, depression, anything like that. It's just phenomenal to do it.
And I can even hear in the background, I'm
Yes.
not hearing people misbehaving, crying. I can hear like little whelps of joy in the background.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and there's no cars, there's no trains, it's just people enjoying themselves. And, obviously my geography lessons are the best lessons that any of the kids ever sit through. But, they're going to enjoy themselves. If I can get them outdoors doing something, they're going to enjoy that far more. They'll learn more if I do it properly, than being in the classroom. It's, there's that side. Then again, what's important these days, environmental concerns, sustainability, where do you see that? How can you, show what's going on, than actually being outside and seeing, where things are. Physical, mental, sustainability. And then, again, on the DFE, one of the big things is that you've got groups of teenagers that haven't got a phone, and they're having to talk to each other, and things like that. And it's just so nice to see, again, this day and age, kids sitting around trying to cook their dinner and actually having a conversation with each other.
Yes,
It's
definitely.
just doesn't, I've got 3 kids myself, and full well that, given the choice, they'll probably sit and play on their phone rather than, going out and doing something for a bit of fun, because it's easier for them.
Definitely. And through no fault of our kids' own, they've just been brought up, haven't they, with these devices, and it's just natural. So that's why I think it's so exciting now. It's almost like the unnatural thing is to go into these phone-free spaces. And even yesterday, actually, I was talking to one of my students who volunteers with the Scouts, and she was saying they took them all out kayaking on a lake last week. But the rule was no phones. And she said it was just amazing. They're all in the kayaks. At the end, they all said, "Oh, should we all jump in?" And it was like 7:30 at night. And I just thought, wow, like that just sounds crazy good.
It's like brilliant.
Making touch with nature again, right?
Yeah, getting out there, we teach about nature and how important it is, but until you're out there, you can't really appreciate it, can you? That between, sort of, I suppose, our academic side of life, but then the natural side, and what's important. Unless you're out there, why are you going to sort of believe that X, Y, or Z is important unless you actually can see it and feel it? You just sort of can't get that same appreciation until you're out there, can you?
Amazing. I'm sure everyone listening now is just looking like earnestly out of their window. Just looking forward to get out there later. But amazing. Mike, don't go anywhere. I'm just going to play the ads from our sponsors and be back in 1 minute.
It's time for a fresh start to language learning. Pearson EdXL's new student-centred French, German and Spanish 2024 GCSEs cater to the needs of all learners, regardless of their background, ability or reason for studying. Rooted in learned language knowledge, their assessments are transparent and accessible, allowing all students to showcase their language skills. Through inclusive and relatable content, the new Pearson EdXL MFL GCSEs build a shared cultural capital that helps students develop an understanding of and appreciation for the wider world. Find out more at go.pearson.com/MFL GCSE 24.
This programme has been brought to you by the Happy Confident Company. Our clinically approved, ready-to-go wellbeing and mental health programme will help your pupils thrive. In only 10 minutes a day, you'll be able to deliver social and emotional learning and wellbeing tools throughout your school. To find out more, visit us at www.happyconfident.com.
And welcome back. Welcome all the brand new listeners who I can see that are joining to the Friday morning break here on Teachers Talk Radio with me, Poppy Gibson, and our very special guest, Mike. Hello, Mike.
Hiya.
And I realised I didn't mute you during the ads, but I quite liked hearing the little whelps of joy from the boys in the background enjoying their sports day. And I thought that was quite nice, as we're here to talk about outdoors ed today, to continue to hear that soundtrack in the background. So before the break there, we were thinking about the benefits of outdoor education. And my next question really, as an adult who is leading these activities, and I know you've touched on this briefly, but what do you really get out of the experience, Mike?
I think, again, it's essentially every time you come out, you get the same as the kids. You know, you're out in nature, you're doing the kayaking or the climbing and all the rest of it. And it's, again, you get the exercise, you get the mental strength, the social skills so you get all those shared experiences. And then on top of that, the situations that you'll find yourselves in, either with your fellow leaders, the adults, that shared experience of again being on the trip. I've done 20 odd years of ski trips. Those experiences with them. I mean, I've been very lucky being in St Albans in that being able to run lots of trips. Mm-hmm. So back in 2005, I ran the first school DV trip over to New Zealand. We went down under for 5 weeks.
Wow.
And that was amazing. And since then, obviously the kids, I say kids, they're now early 30s. And they're now people that I keep in touch with. One of them is a good friend. He came back to the school as a teacher, went to his wedding, all this sort of stuff. And I think that's very, very lucky, for me in the position and the location that those sorts of trips could run. Mm-hmm. But, to sort of essentially literally see someone grow up from a 12-year-old who was in my form, then I was his head of year, comes on the trip, and then you stay in touch. He comes back, becomes a teacher, ran the DV for a bit, go to his wedding. It's just amazing. It's hard to put it into words how much that can actually mean to you when you've got those experiences, and that there's absolutely no way I would have had that if it hadn't been the link from all the outdoor stuff that we did together.
That's incredible. And I think any teachers listening, Mike, will agree that it's only when we often take our children out of the classroom that we get to know them on that deeper level, isn't it? And build those really meaningful connections, because they're not worried about if they've got the right answer in their workbook. But you're having these different conversations, and the freedom that brings is just so empowering, isn't it?
And see, it's particularly with outdoor ed, where everyone is out of their comfort zone. So, we all know the sorts of sporty kids, who are great, rugby, football, but then put them at the top of a 50-metre abseil, 30-metre abseil, and they're the same as anyone else. And to get, them through those situations is brilliant.
Oh, wow. Absolutely incredible. So also, I want to just tap your experience there. You mentioned New Zealand as one of the real highlights. Have there been, in the midst of those 20 years, any real low moments, or, tell us about any gory accidents? Anything, surely there must be a darker side
Yes.
to outdoors, Ed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There is, and no, there is, and I think it's what's important is, as just as an adult, as a person, that you can accept you're going to have some absolutely amazing experiences, but you're also going to have, things that aren't great, that you are concerned about and worried, and you have to plan for that so that when it does go wrong, you can deal with it, because, as you say, things do happen. On that trip to New Zealand, one of the boys got ill on the plane, was in hospital for 2 days, and was on a drip.
Oh my gosh.
And so that was, I was 29 years old when I started the trip. It was my birthday when we were away.
Oh,
And,
wow.
and you're sort of thinking, oh, what are we going to do? But you just sort of deal with it, because you've done the training. Something might happen. You've got your emergency contacts and so on. Or ski trips. Someone beginner got spiral fracture of their lower leg on the first day, and you just
no.
so
what happens in
deal
that
with it.
situation? Do you have to try and get them home early, or do they stay and enjoy the
No,
trip?
they stayed in the case of skiing. The lad, he stayed with us, and you do as much as you can so that they can enjoy themselves, which essentially is feeding them hot chocolate and chips at the little restaurants and so on.
I mean, that sounds like my ideal holiday. I'm not going to lie to you,
Yes.
Mike. I mean, scrap the skiing.
Yeah. It's a nice place to be if all you can do is sit around. But yeah, it is a problem. But again, it is just a case of, this might happen, but I'm sure it was Lord of the Rings or something like that. When Bilbo's talking about stepping out of his front doors, it's a dangerous world. Do you know what I mean? I cycled here this morning. I could have been, run over and knocked off my bike so many times. You do everything that you can in your training, risk assessment, first aid, and just make sure you're ready. And then if it does, it does, doesn't it? That's part of life. And again, that's part of the experience, isn't it? Of, it just makes you appreciate the next time when it is, when nothing bad does happen, you appreciate it even more than when you are having to deal with things. But as I say, that,
and I think as a teacher, I mean, I remember every day going into school, like, you're just thinking the worst could happen. There could be a freak accident. You do. So I think as a teacher, you're already always braced for something to happen anyway, aren't you? Because you're bearing that responsibility.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that I try to do, which I hope doesn't sound wrong, is I try and sort of put all of that to the back of my mind, and you just have to almost forget what you're doing so that you can enjoy it. Because like I say, you've done the training, you've got all your risk assessment sorted, you know everything. If you still go out there worried, then something probably will happen, rather than doing that and enjoying it. And I think the other side, a lot of what you do as a teacher, or for me anyways, we go to, for instance, this centre Blue Peris in North Wales, which, if anyone wants an outdoor place for a week, it's absolutely amazing. But you go there and the instructors are just so brilliant that even when we do some coasteering and sea level traversing, which is sort of climbing along the cliffs, sort of sideways, jumping in at various points.
Wow.
It's almost so safe because of the way that the ropes are set up. You're tied in. You've got everything. That the actual level of risk is so low. It's probably more risky driving the minibus from the centre to the car park. When you're not in control, these guys are just in control all the time. That it's a perceived risk rather than an actual risk, and then you're just you're enjoying it and loving life with them.
Wow. And just making those moments that you remember for a lifetime as well, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. And again, my boys went through the same school that I taught at, and did all the trips, and they still sort of talk about some of the things now, which obviously worries me a bit when I was the leader on a couple of trips, and some of the stories that come out you don't know about until later. But again, that's all part of it, isn't it?
Exactly. So maybe just before we head for the news, Mike, you've mentioned North Wales, that you love New Zealand. Are there a couple of other real beautiful places for us to put on our outdoor education maps, like a couple of other places you could really recommend with a great view?
Yes, without sort of sounding silly or cocky or whatever, we did with D&B, we went to Corsica, and we did the northern part of what's called the GR20, which is one of the sort of the long distance mountain walks, that was absolutely phenomenal. And then had a couple of days in Calvi, which is sort of lovely little sort of village there. Where else? Norway was phenomenal. We went there and had absolutely amazing weather.
Wow.
So yeah, that was pretty good experiences. I think they would definitely be the top places for me.
Amazing. So I'm seeing now that the adult perks. Now we talk more about the places you've been.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And where next? In 2 weeks, 2 weeks time, I'm off to Slovenia with the D&B to do some walking in the Alps there. So that should be pretty good.
How many boys are you taking on that trip?
There's 14 on that one. 2 staff.
I was going to say, how many staff? Is there like a ratio that you have to meet, or?
Yes, yeah. I mean, we try and do sort of first around 1 to 8, but then as well as the 2 of us, I've got 2 guides are coming along as well. So there's 14 boys, and then I've got essentially 4 adults as well. So yeah, we're very lucky in that respect on this trip.
Yeah, so I mean, it sounds like you'll have the other adults to share the load. So I guess that was something I thought might be worrying, but it sounds like the ratios are quite good.
Yeah, it can be. Part of your planning is always to make sure that if so on this trip there's 14. If one boy gets hurt or injured, then one of us will go with him. That still leaves 3 with the other 13, and so on. And then you obviously hope that you can go for long enough before you need any more help than you've got staff left for. So it normally works out quite well. I haven't had any issues.
Oh gosh, wow. Counting down the days till you head to Slovenia. I hope you have an amazing time. You have to come back and update us in the future. Or take me with you in your suitcase. Amazing. So Mike, we're just going to head for the news and the 2-minute tech now, and we'll be back with you in about 8 minutes, okay?
Brilliant.
Speak to you soon, Mike.
It's time for a fresh start to language learning. Pearson EdXL's new student-centred French, German and Spanish 2024 GCSEs cater to the needs of all learners, regardless of their background, ability or reason for studying. Rooted in learned language knowledge, their assessments are transparent and accessible, allowing all students to showcase their language skills. Through inclusive and relatable content, the new Pearson EdXL MFL GCSEs build a shared cultural capital that helps students develop an understanding of and appreciation for the wider world. Find out more at go.pearson.com/MFL GCSE 24.
This programme has been brought to you by the Happy Confident Company. Our clinically approved, ready-to-go wellbeing and mental health programme will help your pupils thrive. In only 10 minutes a day, you'll be able to deliver social and emotional learning and wellbeing tools throughout your school. To find out more, visit us at www.happyconfident.com.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
The Universities and Colleges Employers Association, UCEA, is playing down the impact a marking boycott is having on students. This is the view of the University and College Union, according to a report on the BBC. The UCEA represents 144 institutions and has released a survey which suggests most student graduations are not being affected by the boycott. This is contrary to the UCU view that this survey accounts for fewer than half of universities. Some students have graduated without their final marks, whilst others have seen graduations delayed. The boycott is part of a long-running dispute over pay and conditions, which has been previously reported on Teachers Talk Radio News. Many students have complained about the lack of communication around the impact of the boycott from their universities, whilst others highlight the fact that it is coming at the end of an already fragmented experience of university brought about by the impact of the pandemic. Whilst the UCEA survey suggests that the impact on students is different in each university, its chief was keen to say it showed that the majority of students were not facing a graduation without their final marks, although Raj Jethwa was quick to point out that this would be little comfort to those who were affected. The industrial action in the higher education sector is just part of a wider action being taken by those in education. But Sky News and other outlets reported that PM Rishi Sunak could be considering a block on recommendations by peer review bodies from across the public sector. The teaching peer review body presented its recommendations to ministers, and it is expected to be published next month. Leaked reports suggest it could be a proposal of 6.5%. Government sources deny the claims made originally in the Times, but stated that pumping money into the economy risks fueling inflation. In an editorial in The Guardian, recruitment and retention problems were highlighted again, with some alarming figures suggesting that 1 in 4 new teachers leave the profession within 3 years. The piece goes on to cite the huge range of issues that schools deal with, including sexual harassment and bullying, as well as home circumstances and their effects. This view was further emphasised this week with a report from The Observer focusing on the stresses being placed on pupil referral units. The units cater for children who have been excluded from mainstream schools. But leaders are now saying they are full to bursting because of unprecedented levels of behaviour incidents in schools. Data suggests that permanent exclusions are rising after a brief lull on the return to school after the pandemic. The former Children's Commissioner Anne Longfield says in the report that schools are buckling under the pressure of children with complex needs, and cites cuts to public services, leaving a lack of support in its wake. She called the situation a disaster for vulnerable children. A former head teacher of a PRU in Stockton-on-Tees said she had dealt with children spitting, kicking and swearing. Her school had previously tried to take children on short outreach programmes, but now this was impossible due to overload. Finally, the BBC features calls by EastEnders actress Rose Ayling-Ellis for sign language lessons to be made freely available to those who need them, including parents and carers of deaf children. The British Sign Language user says she cannot believe that some parents and guardians of deaf children have to pay for tuition. The cost of an accredited course can be anywhere between £200 and £700. Martin McLean, Senior Policy Advisor at the National Deaf Children's Society, says funding is inconsistent and a postcode lottery, with some local authorities funding it whilst others don't. Spokesmen for leaders across all 4 home nations have made statements in support of improving access to BSL, but only the Welsh Government says it is already included in the curriculum for schools. In 2022, the British Sign Language Bill was passed, recognising BSL as an official language, and the Department for Education in England says it is working towards a BSL GCSE, which should be available from September 2025. A spokesperson for the Scottish Government has said that its teaching council is working with the University of Edinburgh on the development of an undergraduate degree in primary education and BSL. This has been your Teachers Talk Radio News with Joe Fox.
This is 2 Minute Tech with Steve Woods, your tech briefing on Teachers Talk Radio.
Hello, this week I'm going to discuss tech that will help you battle one of the worst things that can possibly happen in school, the summer. Nothing is worse than melting all day while trying to deliver lessons. Yet, we all have to suffer it. Let's see what tech has to offer you. Through searching the web, I found a few cool gadgets. Pun totally intended. Starting with the cheapest, a neck fan. It looks like an 80s pair of headphones around your neck. Rechargeable with different speed settings. It's got some decent reviews, and at £14 may be worth a try. Although high settings have more noise, so it might not be great for quiet times. For £20 you can get a personal air cooler. This has a tank of water, so not only fans you, but uses the water to super cool the air. Nice. £29 gets you a waist fan. Clip it onto your belt, or use the belt supplied, and it blows up your shirt. Again, rechargeable, and you can choose a front or back position. As with the previous though, noise may be a problem. Next, staying with the fan idea, for £79 you can get a cooling vest. This is a vest filled with fans, not unlike those you see on novelty inflatable fancy dress suits. The fans pass cool air over you and you stay cool. Again, noise is a factor here though. If you're willing to splash out for £100, how about a cooling vest with elements instead? Basically, it looks like an FBI bulletproof vest you see on TV, filled with reusable ice packs. It's obviously very quiet, however, will make squeezing through tight spaces a little more difficult. Also, preparation is needed as the packs will need to be frozen overnight. In conclusion, fans are the cheapest way to go, and you look like you're standing in hero wind, but noise is a factor. Vests may keep you cool, but you certainly will not look it. I suppose you could always try sticking an ice pack in a plastic bag and putting it in your pocket. What do you do to stay cool? Let us know at TT Radio Official. I'm Steve Woods, and that was 2 Minute Tech.
2 Minute Tech with Steve Woods, your tech briefing on Teachers Talk Radio.
Well, welcome back everybody, and you're here on the Friday morning break with me, Poppy Gibson, and our very special guest, Mike, to talk about outdoors education. Now, Mike, I don't know what you thought of that fan vest. Might that be useful for Slovenia? Is it going to be sunny?
I hope so. I hope it will be.
Need to get you a fan vest. No, always excited to hear what our 2 Minute Tech brings us. So before the break there, we were asking Mike about why he loves outdoor education so much, and we really touched on both the kind of physical benefits and the mental benefits as well, that it can bring, not just for the pupils and students, but for the teachers. So I've got a few more questions for you, Mike, but just before, I see we've had a question in from one of our listeners, from Paul. So I'm just going to ask that to you, if that's okay, or just bring, it's not really a question, just more like a comment. So welcome, Paul, who's listening in, and welcome everybody who's listening. But Paul has typed in our chat this morning, my head teacher has just approved a company to set up orienteering equipment around school grounds to use in every subject. I'm hoping this is worth it, as it seems a lot of money. What's your kind of response to that, Mike? Is that going to be a good use of money?
I think I saw that as well. Yeah, I mean, anything. The key here is what's the purpose as the school. What do you want to get out of the activities? Is it simply orienteering for the sake of orienteering? Is it to get the kids active? Are you going to sort of use it in other subjects, etc.? Because depending on what your purpose and what the objective is going to influence on A, is it a success, and then B, that will answer the final question: is it worth the money? Because essentially, in terms of value for money, it's what you want to get out of it, isn't it, that will determine whether or not you as a school, the kids, actually get value out of it. I think it is the key thing. So just being given it, in its own right, no, probably that might not be value for money. But if you've got it, if as the school they've got it well planned into the curriculum, across subjects, etc., then yes, it will definitely add value to to PE, to the social skills, communication, etc. So I think you've in terms of any outdoor ed, it's plan it carefully, think what you want to get out of it, and once you've got that sorted, you can decide if it works or not, and then if it doesn't, why didn't it? What would you change? The same almost as any other aspect of the curriculum.
No, really good advice. And I think, Mike, that's true of anything we do in our school,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Sometimes we throw money at things. Well, not us personally as the teachers, but sometimes money is thrown at things that haven't always been planned. And I think, Paul, you're going to be a future guest for me. We'll get you on, and maybe Mike will come back. My dog's agreeing with that idea, and hopefully we could, talk about whether it was money well spent. So into my next question then, which leads on nicely, Mike. How would you go about setting up running outdoor ed? So for anyone who's listening that's keen, talk to us about that.
Yeah, I think again, sort of that little example there helps massively, because the key has got to be what are your objectives? What is it you want to get from your goal, your program? Is it get kids engaged in outdoor education? Do you want them be doing X, Y, and Z? So think about what your purpose is, and then once you've got that, you can start to research it. You can plan out exactly what you want to do. In turn, that will straight away lead into the idea of staffing, where you're going to go, who's going to help, and then again, I think if it's someone essentially that's sort of new to the idea of outdoor education, just plan it as you would. It's just the scheme of work. The only difference is it might be outdoors. So in simple terms, I suppose in English, if you're looking at what books you're going to use here, you might just look at what area of the outdoors am I going to go to? Is it, and then once you've got your planning in place, as I say, you'll start to look at who's going to help you. Because again, for me personally, it's not something that I run every single activity myself. It's a case of I know what I want to do. Who's going to run that for me? So, for instance, the Slovenia trip. There's two what's called international mountain leaders who are coming on the trip with us, who, in terms of their field and their expertise, are sort of the top of their game. And then that takes away some of my risk as well, because I've got people that are so good at what they do. So it's a case of, like I say, going back, and Paul's example is a great one. What's the purpose? What do I want to achieve? What do I want the kids to achieve? Then you can look at where that's going to happen, how it's going to happen, and look at what your review is going to be after you've done all that, to see was it a success, and who was it a success for.
Yeah, that's really wise. And I think for any teachers listening, we know it's all got to be about the outcomes, hasn't it? And at university level, we talk about everything being about impact. So I guess, it's not just thinking, this will be fun. Obviously, we want things to be fun as well. But I guess, what is that bigger impact? What is that kind of lifelong impact that could potentially have, isn't it?
Yeah. What's, particularly in outdoor ed, I suppose a lot of the other side of it that we sort of mentioned, it is, I don't know if they're still called soft skills, but it is the communication skills, the leadership, getting out of your comfort zone and looking at those in terms of the impact you might not necessarily see straight away on that trip. You might see it in a year's time, 2 years' time, and then conversations with the kids, you can sort of trace things back to where they first started to think about other people. If someone, like I say, is at the top of an abseil and doesn't want to go down it, how do you encourage them to do that, or what? And it's again, as you say, that's all part of the success, and measuring it in maybe in different ways to the sort of, obviously, the traditional academic subjects.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Thank you, Mike. That's a really good answer to that question. So I guess now the next thing I want to ask you is picking up on those perceived difficulties. And I'll be honest, I heard you mention some words in there that us listening might be a bit nervous about when we hear risk assessment.
Yes.
So I'm guessing that needs to be a big part of it. So my next question for you, Mike, is how do you overcome the perceived difficulties of outdoor ed? And I know you've kind of mentioned some of them, but Kind of tell us a bit more about that, please.
I mean, essentially, it's a case of, don't be afraid of it. Like we've mentioned, things go wrong, but that's life, isn't it? And it's what we do about it. We don't not do something because of that. So you just have to plan it, and as long as you plan, and you've got experts, you've got people in to help you, then everything will be as safe as it possibly can. So again, I think risk assessments or risk management plans, I think sort of a lot of places use now. That's all part of your planning. It's part of your thinking. You just go through it, and it does help. If you're looking at doing X, Y, or Z, if you're thinking in advance about what the dangers might be or the risks, then you can get those out of the way for the safety and enjoyment of everyone. So it's I think in a sense it has got a bit of a bad press because we as adults, you think, oh, I don't need to do that, but we do for this because of the places we're going. There's also so much support that you can get. It's not a case of having to start from scratch. Within our school setting, we do a lot of trips in general because they are so well valued by the staff and students and the parents. And we, all the leaders of all various trips, will generally we'll talk to each other about what have you got on that risk assessment, what have you got, how can we improve it. So it's not, you're not doing anything together. If you're in isolation, then the same with anything, it's difficult, isn't it? But work with other people that have been there and done it, and you'll get loads more help than you think. And
That's
as I say,
such good advice. Yeah, I think as teachers, things can seem overwhelming, but always reach out to your teacher network. There's probably someone who's done it before, isn't there?
Yes, yeah,
happy
exactly.
To advise or adapt, and particularly in risk assessments, it's always nice to not start from scratch.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. Starting those from scratch is so difficult because even the terminology. Sometimes it's what's your risk? How do you reduce it? And all these sorts of phrases can be a bit daunting, but as you say, you can guarantee in a school setting someone somewhere will have done it, whether it's someone that you would expect or it could be the least person least expected who's been on the ski trip before or run a trip somewhere and can help out. You look people out and you find them.
Yeah, just ask around. Great advice. Mike, I just want to give a shout out to Alan who's listening in. Hi, Alan. He's tweeted a comment for you. He also noticed that he heard my dog joining in with the show. Sorry about that, Mike. And Alan says, Outward Bound schools are very educational. They give leadership and understanding of working together. I'm guessing you're agreeing with Alan's comment.
Yeah, 100%. And at every single level, you'll see that from, in terms of the staff, the leadership of the school, appreciating and understanding what impact it will have on the kids. All the way through to, in the past 4 weeks now, I think I've taken 80 boys out on bronze expeditions.
Wow.
And some of them, the leadership that they've shown, just to get out of the campsite is, for a group of teenage boys on a Saturday morning, this lot were up at 5 o'clock on the Saturday morning so they could be out by 7 and finish by 1. They'd got it all planned, which was nice at 1 o'clock. I wasn't quite so happy at 5 o'clock in the morning when they were getting up. That wasn't quite so much fun. I wasn't so impressed at that point. But yeah, and it's, when else do you learn what it is to sort of be a leader unless you are in a group situation and you've got to lead it? You just can't get that, can you? You can't buy it or be taught it. You've got to experience it.
You can't fabricate it. Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, actually, kind of from Alan's comment there, that you do see the children come into their own when they're in that different situation. Like, in the classroom, you try and do, debate club, and you try and want to see them be the leader, but it's not the same as I don't know, create a raft with your group, and they've got some milk cartons and rope. Like, it's a very different leadership situation, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, something sort of so much out of their comfort zone, and probably our comfort zone as the lead, as the teacher or whatever, to see them succeed, and then they'll take that forward to the next challenge that they get, won't they? Whether that's on that particular trip or back at school, is it going to be when they're playing, cricket, football, whatever? They're going to have to show that leadership. It might be in a different style, in a different format, but they know sort of what process mentally, even if it's subconsciously, they'll go through that and sort out the situation that they find themselves in.
Exactly. Thank you for that, Mike. So we're kind of entering into the last 10 minutes of the show. I've just got 2 more questions for you, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So you've spoken a lot around the things you're currently doing in outdoor education. I'm really interested to ask you, moving on, how would you personally like to see outdoor education develop?
I mean, if I had a choice and I could sort of change everything, I'd love to see it as a part of every sort of young person's entitlement, so that just as in primary, secondary school, there's the entitlement to the national curriculum in English, math, science, obviously geography top of the list as well, but then there should be an entitlement somehow in a in a miracle world that they can go to an environment that they're not used to, so that kids from in a city that haven't been to one of the national parks can go to a national park, so that kids from that are in the national parks can go and do some outdoor ed down in London or Manchester, or an environment that they're not comfortable in. It should be available for everyone, not just in the places where you've got teachers or schools that appreciate and understand it, and then mixed in with that, the other elephant in the room is obviously the cost of it isn't sometimes the cheapest activity in the world. So it's, like I say, in the ideal world, I'd love to see everyone with the chance, to get out there and do it. And again, some of it doesn't have to be massively expensive either. It might take a little bit more thought to do something in different circumstances, but I'd love to see something available to everyone. I'm pretty sure
I mean, how
orienteering. Sorry.
Yeah, and I love this, Mike. I love this dream. I love this vision. But I'm guessing, how would that work? So, like inner city schools, because I know like a couple of schools I visited that are really inner London, for example, their playground is like a postage stamp. So, like, how could we potentially see that work for maybe schools that don't even have grounds?
Yeah, I think that's where it might be a case of more of sort of school partnerships developing more. Who has got the space, and again, what public spaces are there? How can they be better utilised for schools? In terms of Hampstead Heath, what are the opportunities there for having some orienteering courses set up in those sorts of locations? I mean, it's no point sort of denying it. The challenges would be absolutely massive, but I think it's like anything. If there's a will, then there could be a way in individual circumstances. But I think it would need, more of a push onto schools to do it, because it is essentially, I think, in most places, it's still sort of seen as an extra to the curriculum rather than the entitlement. And so if it's something that's difficult to push, it won't be pushed. How could technology be used a bit more in terms of sort of geography, like GIS systems, or AI technology, those sorts of things? Can we get those into it to bring, if we can't take kids to the outdoors, is a first step bringing the outdoors to the kids. Can we get them excited about it that way?
And doing that Everest walk on the virtual reality glasses, that's
things like that to see what's going on, and then that might start increasing the interest, and then it could develop further from there. But can you imagine if you had every single kid having the opportunity to go and do some walking somewhere, whether it's in the mountains or through a park or something like that, just somewhere out of their comfort zone would just be tremendous for them, wouldn't it?
Incredible. And I know the first thing that my children always want to do, because I've got 3 just like you, Mike, the first thing they want to do when I pick them up is like that, can we go to the park, can we go to the playground? Like, they don't want to come straight home and be back indoors. They want to be outdoors. And so, and particularly for children who might not have gardens, who might not even have a balcony, to get to spend more time outdoors as part of that school timetable is so valuable. But I think you're right. I think it comes down to 2 big things: funding and planning, and also that pressure we're still seeing for getting the exam results, SATs at primary or GCSE, and actually do leaders want to give time to being outdoors, which they might not see the benefits, as opposed to getting a better number on your GCSE. I guess there's always going to be that tension, isn't there? But I agree with you. I mean, I think the benefits outweigh any other benefits we could see of anything academic. And I've just got one final question for you, Mike, if that's okay. You're back with us. So Mike, one last question just before we finish. I really love your idea that everyone gets to do outdoor learning. And actually, coincidentally, my middle child today has got forest school. So I'm guessing you know about forest schools.
Yes.
And for anyone listening who doesn't, they're where they're normally schools that do have their own kind of grounds. And my son's school's got like a nice outdoor area. And what they're doing for it is they're actually getting a forest schools teacher to come in for their session, and teach them to make a den, make a campfire. My not complaint, because I love his school and everything about it, but his forest school timetable is 3 Fridays in the school year. So it was the 2 last Fridays after lunch and today after lunch. So and he has been the most excited he's ever been on the last 3 Fridays, getting his bug spray. I think he feels like he's going on a jungle expedition. Like, he's got his jungle roll-on spray and his suntan lotion. But all the kids, like, there's a real buzz. When I took him to school this morning, they're all there in their outdoor learning clothing rather than uniform. They're all absolutely buzzing. But 3 Friday afternoons of a year, like, is that enough? I guess not.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's no, I mean, it's probably not, is it? But it's what can you do? Where do you start something from? If it can get bigger for next year's kids, might not be good for yours, obviously. But if the school can start to develop it further, then they can see the importance of it. They'll start to see the change in the students and the kids, etc., won't they? That would all be brilliant, I think. So
watch this space. We'll have to get the children doing the petition. Thanks, Mike. So it brings us to the final minute. I just wondered if you're happy for any of our listeners to kind of connect with you. Are there any platforms, anything you're happy to share where they can find you?
Yeah, anything. I mean, the Twitter address is out there, isn't it? I think if anyone
I know you're tagged in all the posts. So anyone listening, jump on my Twitter, you'll see Mike tagged.
Essentially, I mean, I wouldn't claim to be an expert. I'd claim to be someone that's sort of been there and done it. Probably made lots of mistakes, but I think that's how we learn a lot of the time. If anyone does want to get in touch, feel free. That'd be great.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mike. So it just ends now. I can't believe we're at the end of the show. I feel like this flew by. And for anyone listening, hearing the fun going on in the background of Mike's microphone, that's a sports day. So again, we appreciate your dedication.
That's right.
to coming on today.
We're just on to the 100 metres now, so it's even noisier.
Wow. And hopefully there's a teacher's race coming up too.
That would be good. I'd quite like.
So Mike, I just really want to thank you. It's been great fun talking to you today. Really inspiring. And Yeah, really good. And hopefully we'll see you back on the show one day in the
Yes,
future.
definitely, that'd be great.
All right, you take care, Mike, and enjoy the weekend.
Lovely. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Mike. And to all our listeners listening live or listening back, thanks for joining me, Poppy Gibson, and I'll be back with you soon with another exciting guest. Take care and enjoy the weekend.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.